Welcome to How Now, the podcast where we talk about how to live in the now. And here's your host, Kim Martin Raymond.
Peace and blessings, love and light, and welcome to this edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. I'm your host, Kim Martin Raymond, and I am a minister, spiritual life coach, holistic nutritionist, author, and founder of Redefining You LLC. I help my clients to realign themselves, mind, body, and spirit. And welcome to the show. We're so glad that you are here, and we hope that you are enjoying this season 6 of the How Now podcast, where we're talking about a year of execution. Last year, we did a 365-day challenge where we were challenging people to create healthy habits, mind, body, and spirit. And this year, it's all about execution, how we're going about using those tools that we've created during our 365-day challenge. And as a result of that, we've also had special guests to come on and co-host the show. And we've been talking about living your purpose with Jason Gerardo. And we've been talking about we've been talking about, financial fitness with Leah Garcia. And we've been talking about spirit body transformation. And those are some things where I'm sharing my experiences and the experiences of others where they're talking about their health and wellness journeys. And the last segment that we're talking about each month is the 12 spiritual principles. And we'll be touching on that this evening. But before we get into tonight's show, if you are new to the How Now podcast, please make sure that you go to my website, www.hownowpodcast.com. Click on your favorite podcast platform and be sure to like, follow, share, and subscribe. You can also scroll to the bottom of the page on my website and click on the banner for this week's show, and it'll take you to the How Now YouTube channel where you can check out my playlists like Tuesday, where I share a scripture verse every Tuesday. Or you can check out Spirit Body Transformation, where I talk about my wellness journey. Or you can check out some of the shows that you may have missed during the first 5 seasons of the How Now podcast. So you can find out all things that are going on in the now. So again, that is www.hownowpodcast.com. Okay, so let's get into tonight's show. Like I said, we're out. This segment this evening is going to be about the 12 spiritual principles. And so we are going to be touching on the principle for the month of March, as well as the Spiritual Luminary. And so joining me again is my co-host for this segment. And as is customary with the How Now podcast, I'm going to have him introduce himself at this time.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you again for having me on your show, Kim. I greatly appreciate you. I am here this evening to discuss the spiritual principle of divine strength. And divine strength is the energy of God that lives within us. Divine strength is the energy of God that lives within us. And when we connect to that divine strength and execute it, we step into our power. So this is an integral part. Divine strength is an integral part of our power and being able to step off into executing, as you mentioned earlier. Also, our spiritual luminary this month is Rosa Parks. She used the divine strength that was within her in order to defy the Montgomery law system, and you know what I'm trying to say. She refused to give up her seat on the bus. December the 5th, 1955. So we give thanks for her and her life and legacy in terms of her refusal. And she stated, I want to read a little bit of what she said when she decided not to give up her seat on that segregated bus in 1955. She said, I instantly felt God give me the strength to endure whatever would happen next. God's peace flooded my soul and my fear melted away. And so, as I have said on the podcast before, that many of our spiritual luminaries were able to do the things that they did. Marcus Garvey, Mary McLeod Bethune, Harriet Tubman, they were able to do extraordinary things because of their direct awareness of their spirit. They knew that they were directly connected to God. And so that relationship enabled them to be able to do extraordinary things, be able to anchor God's ideas for justice and peace on earth through them. They knew that they were a conduit for God. God works in us, through us, and as us. And so if anything is going to get done, if God's strength is to be manifested, it has to be manifested through you and I. And that's what Rosa Parks taught, that we are the strength of God manifested, and that the same spirit, the same divine strength that was in Rosa Parks is the same divine strength that lives in us.
Yes, I absolutely love that. And I love that we are honoring Rosa Parks as the spiritual luminary, especially during Women's History Month, as we're honoring, women and the strength and the triumph that they've had to have as we're going through, this season. This is a time, I love that we're talking about divine strength, because in this time of unrest, of civil unrest, of spiritual unrest, of wartime, there are so many things that are going on, and we do need to, be able to tap into that strength to help us to get through the season that we're in. And so I just think that it's wonderful that we are touching on divine strength this month. It's amazing how God continues to align us, to have conversations and dialogue about, something that is, a time or a season that's so critical, and how we can, tap into those tools that are going to help us. So I'm looking forward to our conversation tonight.
Right. I am too. Thank you. Again, thank you for having me. And again, I just want to reiterate that we are not looking for divine strength outside of ourselves, that we are the divine strength of God manifested. Now, that's a little bit different teaching than what many of us have gotten in many different spiritual circles. Typically, we have looked outside of ourselves. In many instances, our prayer has been, God, give me strength.
Yes.
But even the scripture says, let the weak say that they are strong, meaning that you are not to identify with weakness. Your true spiritual identity is strength. And again, we are one with the divine presence of God. God is with us and manifests through us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And then the scripture goes on to tell us that in God that we live, that we move, and that we have our being. So we've got the greatest thing going for us. But we have to be consciously aware that the strength of God lives in us, through us, and as us, which is very, very important, which is why I have associated each one of those 12 spiritual principles. I've associated them with people that we can identify with in history. And I just want to reiterate the 12 spiritual principles that make up the God consciousness, or the Christ consciousness within us: faith, love, strength, understanding, wisdom, power, imagination, will, order, zeal, renunciation, and life. All of those 12 spiritual principles make up the Christ presence, or the God presence that's within us. And we have to understand what Christ means. Christ means one who has elevated his or her awareness into union with God, or into union with his or her higher self. So Jesus actually became the Christ. And it's another clue that he gave us in terms of saying, these and greater things shall you do also. So he knew that the God presence was in each one of us, and that we have to bring this God presence to everything that we do, whether it's our relationships, whether it's our health, or whether it's our finances. We have to bring the strength. Now, we're talking about strength this month. We have to bring the strength of God into every aspect of our lives. That is our cosmic assignment. That is our duty when we wake up. As I got up this morning, I made sure that I did my spiritual work by stepping into meditation. Meditation allows us to hear the still small voice of God. And as we meditate, as we listen, we connect to the pure thoughts of God. See, this will give us the strength necessary to move through life with grace and ease. We've got to begin to understand and know that we have everything that we need to work with. Everything. So, one of my affirmations is, I am rich because I am enriched with the Spirit of God. I am rich because I am enriched with the Spirit of God. See, we've got to begin to really put everything together, because the God presence helps us to see things from a holistic standpoint. And when you can begin to see your life from a more holistic standpoint, you'll realize that the strength or the power or the understanding of God is not out there somewhere. It's within, that you already made perfect, whole, and complete. And when I say you're perfect, whole, and complete, I'm talking about your spiritual self. It's your human self that's got to be brought into alignment with the spirit and presence that's already built within you. See, when we begin to understand, we've been taught a theology that the strength lies outside of ourselves. It's somewhere where I can't see it, I can't touch it, I don't know how to get in tune with it. And so therefore we have to begin to realize who and what we are. And it makes me think about a gentleman in Macon that was a minister, and he killed himself shortly before the services were to begin at his church. And he said a week before he killed himself, he said that he could not feel God there. He tried to pray, but he wasn't able to connect with the God presence within him. He said he didn't even think that God could hear him. So the theology, there's nothing wrong with, I don't have issue. Many people have issues with religion. I don't have an issue with religion, but it is our theology that is problematic. Religion simply means that it's a means of practicing our spiritual awareness.
Right.
But my spirituality is my direct connection with God. So whether I am participating in the Holy Communion, whether I am being baptized, whatever ritual that I'm engaging in is designed to remind me of my direct connection with God. It's designed to demonstrate my oneness with God. It's there to remind us. But see, what happens is, if we're dealing with the Holy Communion, for example, Jesus said, do this in what? Remembrance of me. So the people get lost in the symbols of the bread and the wine. The bread and the wine are just there to remind us to take in, to consume the teachings of Jesus. That's all that was really talking about. That will, as we consume the teachings of Jesus, then that helps us to become stronger. And Jesus was talking about, again, universal teachings. I'm not talking about religion.
Right.
I'm not talking about dogma. I'm talking about spiritual principles that will help you step into your oneness. And that's all that the story of Jesus was about. He illuminated the God presence within him, which they call the Christ. And it's our job to illuminate the God presence within us, whether you are a Christian, whether you are a Muslim, whether you are a Buddhist. See, we all have got to begin to realize that the God presence is alive and well within us, no matter what religious practice we give way to. And I want to repeat again, religion is simply how I practice my spirituality. My spirituality is my direct connection with God. And so there may be a set of practices that people engage in. Some people wear a little prayer hat, or somebody gets down on the floor and get into the lotus position. How people do it is differently, but it's all there designed for us to step into our oneness with God. It's just like you may be driving. We may decide that we want to meet at McDonald's. Let's set a destination. We may say, for those who are here in the Atlanta area or in the Decatur area, we may decide that we want to meet at McDonald's on Candler Road, you and I.
Right.
You may take your Toyota Camry. I may take my Honda Civic.
Right.
The religion is the vehicle, but our destination is McDonald's on Candler Road.
Right.
See, but we get lost in what kind of car is that, what you doing, why you doing it that way. See, we all need to, again, and the strength of God helps remind us that we all have to mind our own business in terms of how we're getting to the kingdom of heaven within ourselves. Jesus said, don't look here, don't look there. The kingdom of heaven is where? Within you. It's a state of awareness, a state of consciousness. And as we begin to grow in a more expanded awareness of who and what we are, we'll become stronger. Just as I said, is the spiritual principle of the month. We become stronger in our convictions, just like Rosa Parks. She was strong in her convictions because she knew that the strength of God existed within her, and it had to move as her on that bus, that segregated bus in 1955.
Yes.
So we have to work. We got to work the spiritual principles of God in order to manifest God. And I did say manifest God, because we have to prove the principles. That's what the scripture also says. Prove me what? Now. See, and unless I'm proving God in my everyday life through the gift of strength, through the spiritual power of strength, through this principle of strength, unless I'm proving it, I don't know it. See, we've got to, because this thing comes down to mastery. I've said this before. Mastery, spiritual mastery, self-mastery is the ability to comprehend, demonstrate, and manifest your divinity in all aspects of your life. So that's what we're doing. We're being required to show up in the world as strength. See, we can't no longer say, well, maybe the president of the United States will work on our behalf and manifest strength for us. We're seeing a good heavy dose of him not working, or someone not working in the greater self, in the greater self-interest. I mean, in the greater good of everyone on the planet. We're seeing that now. I'm glad that is, and I have to be honest, I'm glad that is coming forth, because it's been something that's been hidden from our eyesight. Now, he's not the only person. He's just one of the more outspoken upholders of being disingenuous, or being not able to produce, or unwilling to produce justice on the planet. You know, sometimes we smile and we say one thing and we do another. He is being consistent with exactly what he plans to do and how he's going about it. And he's not doing it showing a lot of teeth. See, we have a tendency to get very uncomfortable. See, but this is where the spiritual principle of strength comes into play. If we're strong in our self-respect, we won't be begging and pleading with other people to shift their perspectives. See, if I'm strong in my strength of who and what I am, then I don't have to beg you to change.
Right.
I don't have to beg and plead, because as I step into my strength and I know who I am, as I manifest the spiritual presence of God within me, whatever's quote unquote evil has to disintegrate. See, this stuff is spiritual principle. Anything that's an illusion has to disintegrate, and weakness is an illusion. See, if it's not strength, then what is it? If it's weakness, and I show up as strength, the weaknesses within myself and all around me have to disintegrate.
That's right.
So we have to begin to understand that those of us who are on the side of righteousness, meaning right thinking, we have to show up in the world as divine strength.
Yes.
And it's the same thing with all the other spiritual principles and power. I have to show up as faith. I have to show up as love. I've got to show up as strength. I've got to show up as divine understanding. I've got to show up as power. I've got to show up as wisdom. Right. See, it's our responsibility. And divine strength also helps us to step into responsibility. Responsibility means that I know how to take full ownership of my life, and I know how to respond appropriately to every situation, circumstance, and condition. Now, as we practice our spirituality, we're not going to always get it quite right. Right. I can think of an example. Last week, I was in the department store, and somebody was behind me, and then they zoomed out behind me and got in front and moved to the clerk's counter before I did, and I had to say, "Wait a minute." I said, I had to tell the clerk, "I'm next." And so when I did that, the lady who got ahead of me began to start cursing. So we're going to be challenged in a lot of different situations. Now, I couldn't take with everything that I know, because I'm responsible for what I know to be the truth. So that was a perfect opportunity for me to practice my strength, the strength of being disciplined with my mouth and my thoughts, not to take my energy and match hers.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And so she did back off. See, because she saw that I wasn't playing when I said I'm next. Right. But I didn't have to take my energy, my strength, and waste it by arguing with her and going back and forth with her and cursing her as she was doing me. Right. The important thing was I'm demonstrating my strength through my action. Right. See, you don't have to always do it with a whole lot of talk.
Right. The beauty is, like you said, that you responded and not reacted. And that's something that I talk about constantly. We have to be in a position to respond and not react to the things that are going on around us, because when we respond, we're responding from a place of wisdom. Like you said, because of what you know, you're able to speak in a way and act in a way that was in alignment with your relationship with God. And like you said, with that divine strength, as opposed to just lashing out. And I think we've been conditioned, and our ear gates and our eye gates are flooded with the things that we're seeing. We're seeing people on camera fighting and pushing, and people are making it a form of entertainment, to see these things happening. And so, we're not being taught. We're not learning, like you said, to have that divine strength. And it's beautiful to have conversations like this, because they're not happening often enough. We're like I said, our ear gates and our eye gates are being flooded with things that are to the contrary. And so, we have people, we hear that term, people are like sheeple. They start following and doing what they see other people doing. You know, it's like that flight of the wilderness. You just going one off the cliff because everybody else is running off the cliff. You're not going to
Right.
stop. Wait a minute. Why are we falling over there? Why are we jumping over there? We have to be able to question our actions and say, okay, is this something that's in alignment? Just like you said. So it starts within. It starts with that mindset that you're talking about. Like, this is some powerful stuff. I hope that people are writing these things down.
And I just want to say, I've had to practice, because that would not have been maybe my response 10 years ago, 5 years ago. You see what I'm saying? But it's been through spiritual practice, which gives you the discipline to be able to know what to do in those moments. And we have to accept and know that we're going to be challenged. This is a perfect, and now I had to realize in that moment that this was a perfect opportunity for you to demonstrate divine strength. See, through discipline of mind, through discipline of speech.
Yes.
See, because a lot of times our mouth gets us in more trouble than anything else.
Right.
See, we've got to begin to understand that we are in control or have dominion over ourselves. I'm working on another book that's entitled "You Are the Power of God in Action."
Love it.
And one of the areas that I'm dealing with is being sovereign. That you are sovereign, you are a spiritually sovereign being. So you're the one, you're the only person that's thinking in your mind. See, but what happens is, again, as you just mentioned, we allow ourselves to be programmed by the exterior world. So we don't even know what our true thoughts really are.
Right.
We're really spending time. If you spend enough time watching TV, you are thinking somebody else's thoughts,
Right.
quite honestly.
Right.
It's just like, somebody told me years ago that they just love McDonald's, and when they saw McDonald's, their car used to just drive on in. You see what I'm saying? That's because of the programming.
Right.
You didn't come to the planet desiring a McDonald's hamburger or Wendy's hamburger. You desire that because somebody put it in front of your face and said, this is what you should desire. You really want this.
Right.
That's all through what is marketing is really kind of like the manipulation in this context.
Absolutely.
The manipulation of taste. That's all that's all that it is. Sometimes it can be used for good, and sometimes it's used for negative purposes.
That's right.
And so if we don't get in tune and in touch with sitting down with ourselves, meditating, reflecting, you'll never get in touch with the true strength of your being. It's not that it's not there.
Right.
It's just that it has to be cultivated, and it can only be cultivated through the discipline of divine strength. That's the way that it has to be cultivated. It's got to be cultivated through, and like I always say, that I have to meditate, I have to pray, I have to eat healthy, I've got to exercise, I've got to engage in a wide variety of activities to constantly remind myself of who and what I am 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And I may have left out engaging in healthy relationships, because not enough of us engage in healthy relationships. We got war going on at the job, and then we come home, and then we got war going on at home.
Right.
And then we wonder, and we look around and say, why isn't peace in the world? There's no peace in the world because you don't even have peace in your own house. We can only manifest that which we are tuned into.
Yes.
Unless I show up as peace, I'm not going to manifest peace.
That's right.
See, and Jesus said again that the kingdom of heaven is within you. which is again a state of consciousness. Heaven represents that ever expanding realm of good that's within you. It represents the presence of God within you.
Yes.
Now, many of us walk around not knowing that, and so therefore we bring the ravages of hell out of our being. And hell is, again, that's a state of being.
Right.
It's a state of consciousness. It's just an unhappy, unnatural state of being. And so so we can conjure that up too, but that's us. That's just your own energy bringing that forth. You don't have to. I mean, I've heard people say, "Well, am I going to heaven or am I going to hell?" You don't have to worry about going to heaven or going to hell. The question is, where are you right now?
Yeah.
It's not about going any place. It's about what are you manifesting? What's in your soul? What's in your being right here and right now? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are the words that you're speaking? How are you behaving? See, and we have to begin to realize our life is a prayer.
Yes.
Unless our behavior is in alignment, unless our behavior is in alignment with our prayer, we're not committed to our prayer. So I want to go back. I want to go back to Rosa Parks.
Yes.
Again, and discuss her. I believe that she was a person that had the character makeup also to be able to sit there. There were a lot of different instances that happened to her, experiences that she had in order to make her ready to be able to sit with divine strength and not move on that bus. One of the things that happened to Rosa Parks was that she was worked as a maid when she was a young woman in her early days. And I want to read something in this in my book with regard to that. So this happened when she was working as a domestic, maybe 18 or 19 years old. Many people don't realize a lot of times what people have had to deal with and go through. And so one of her white male employers came to her. This is what she said. "I saw Mr. Charlie standing in the kitchen. He poured himself a drink and he moved near me and put his hands on my waist. I was very frightened, nearly to death. I jumped away. He was a bit startled and asked me not to be afraid. He had money for me to accept his intentions. I knew no matter what happened, I would never yield to this white man's bestiality. I was ready and willing to die, but give my consent, never." See, I believe that was one of the experiences that got her ready, that allowed her to step into her divine strength when she got on that bus. Now, this happened to her as a young woman, but different experiences happen to different people along the way that get them ready for a major experience in their life, such that they can be a conduit and show others that you too have the divine strength. But again, we have to do what? We have to cultivate the divine strength. And many of us, in many instances, have difficulty exercising the strength of character to be able to do something. I even understand that Booker T. Washington, who founded Tuskegee Institute, Tuskegee University now, at one point, I guess it was during the 1800s, early 20th century, he said that even if the students had completed the coursework and were ready to graduate, if he deemed that they did not have the character development, he would not allow them to graduate.
Wow.
So we have to begin to go back to the spiritual blueprint that our ancestors have laid before us, whether it be Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman. We need to go back and study because, again, the same strength of character, the same spirit that was within them is the same spirit within us. We just have to develop it. We have to cultivate it. We've got to use our strength in very constructive, meaningful ways. It's not for you to be Rosa Parks. There's only one Rosa Parks. But the strength of God manifests itself and expresses itself in you in a unique way. I'm talking to the listening audience. It manifests itself and expresses through you in a unique way. But unless you use it, you won't know it. So we have to really, really saturate our minds with the knowingness. Not that I'm begging for divine strength. I know that I am the divine strength. And why do we always put I am with our prayers? I am is the presence of God within us. I am is a state of being. Whatever you put behind I am, it's going to manifest your reality, whether it's negative or positive. So we want to begin to understand the spirit and presence with us and how we can move it forth to manifest those things that we desire.
Yes, yes. Oh my goodness. I hope you all are taking this in because, like I said, this is powerful, powerful. Thoughts. We have to really become comfortable with self-reflection, with going within. And I
Mhm.
think it's hard for some of us. I think a big part of it started, when we had COVID and people were, confined to their homes and people really had to start looking within because we always look for the distraction. We seem to look for things that are going to distract us from how we're feeling or from something that's unpleasant. So we go and we turn to something else. We're always looking to medicate or to put a band-aid on something and we're never searching within to where the root is, to where things are. and
Mhm.
and and I think until we become comfortable with really going with it, with that self-love and with that self-awareness and with that understanding that we do ourselves a disservice moving forward. We're going to always be in that frame of reacting because we're always looking for someone else's interpretation of what it is that's going on around us, and that's putting that same pressure or that same mindset on us. We're taking on something or we're accepting something that someone has said and not knowing it for ourselves, and realizing that whatever it is that I'm internalizing, whatever it is that I'm taking inside, you know how is that going to help me to you know be able to respond to those things that are going on around me. So it's a difficult space to be in because we are bombarded and flooded with all of these exterior things that are keeping us or distracting us from
Right.
really
We're
searching.
being, yeah, just like you said, we're being programmed,
Yeah.
manipulated in it. So what I'm asking the people is to just step out of that illusion and
Yes.
begin to have the strength, develop the internal strength. See, I somebody said to me recently, they said, well, when I pray, I don't even know how to pray. And I said, the thing that you must do, because this is what I've come to, meditation has to precede prayer. See,
Yes.
once you begin to step into a quiet space within your own mind, the thoughts of God will flood you. And you won't have to be concerned about what do I need to pray for or how do I pray.
Right.
Just step into the interior space. And I'm not trying to make meditation a very difficult thing, because there are a lot of people say, well, I don't know how to meditate. All
Mhm.
you need to do, even if you did it for 1 minute a day, close your eyes
Right.
and just concentrate on just breathing and slowing your mind down. If you did that one minute a day, By the time you roll back around 365 days later, you will be even stronger in your spiritual practice of meditation. I want to go back to Rosa Parks because there's one other instance in her life where she says, that she had even become discouraged at different points. But this is what she said. Because she realized she had a spiritual foundation. This is what she said. There were times in my life when I would be discouraged, but I remember that deep within there is a spirit beyond my physical strength. We really was, and there are going to be different instances where we're challenged, but we can always come back home to the divine strength that lives within us. We can always come back home to the faith that lives within us. We can always come back home to the love that lives within us. But because we are disoriented, as you just said, to self, we're looking outside for the answer. And that's why if you're looking outside for any answer, even if you look outside of yourself for God, it will continuously elude you. Now, I know that this is very different than the way that many people have been oriented, but we are being challenged. I say, even, with regard to this political season. See, we are living in a political season that is very harsh. See, and either we're going to go within and be able to master who and what we are, or we just going to cave way to somebody else's power. See, and all that whining and moaning and groaning and complaining is not going to get the job done. It's just not. You and I have to begin to see ourselves as the divine strength of God manifested. Remember, it's not God give me strength. It is I am the strength of God embodied. See, and as you begin to take on the energy of that,
right,
you will begin to manifest more and more strength, just like Rosa Parks. See, Rosa Parks was a special woman, but the specialness of God also lives in everyone else that's within the listening audience. This is very important. Rosa Parks did her thing. Now it's time for you and I to demonstrate the strength of God manifested. And see, as long as we give way to weakness, meaning I don't know how to do it, I can't do it, nobody will help me, we're gonna have the circumstances under which and the conditions under which we're living now. See, that's why this particular person in the White House has manifested itself. It could be that he manifested himself so that you begin to summon up the strength to do what you need to do. If they can't budget and create a balanced budget in the White House, in Washington, what's stopping you from creating a balanced budget in your own home?
Right.
So we've got to begin to understand where our power and strength really lies. And see, God does not disempower us. Now, there are some people who have that theology that we are disempowered, and unless God comes and fix it, we're disempowered. I often hear people say, well, God is on the throne. God is in control. God is on the throne in me and you. And unless we use the strength of God will not be activated. It's just that simple. Unless we use the power of God won't be activated.
Right.
Again, the strength of God lives in us, through us, and as us.
All right. That's a beautiful place to land.
Okay.
We're talking about divine strength and talking about the luminary, through Rosa Parks, and just really, being aware that the power And like you said, that God lives in us, through us, and as us. And until we begin to, take on that mantle, and until we're able to, go within, like you said, we're going to, constantly be avoid, we're not going to be able to manifest and enjoy what it means to have God live in us, through us, and as us. And so, give us a few parting words before we go. But before you do that, please make sure that you, like, follow, share, and subscribe. Dr. Howard's Truth and Transformation YouTube channel has been scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So please make sure that you tap in, so that way you'll have additional opportunities to hear his teaching and to find out more about what's going on through his YouTube channel. So that's Truth and Transformation. All right. Take us
Okay.
home. Some words.
All right. Parting words. I would say we are living in very interesting times. Very interesting times. But this is the perfect time to bring forth the strength of God. If we don't bring forth the strength of God, nobody else will. So those of us who carry the awareness, the understanding, the knowingness that the strength of God lives in us, through us, and as us, if we don't bring it forth, who will? And this is a wonderful time because we get to see the strength of God in action through ourselves, because I think that it has been there and it's been laying there and it's been latent. It is not that it's happened. It's not that we have been, quote unquote, abandoned by God. We haven't been abandoned. Just like I mentioned the minister that I was telling you about earlier in Macon, who killed himself. The spirit and presence of God had not abandoned him, but because he didn't have an awareness that the spirit and presence of God was within him, that he was the strength and power of God, he killed himself. It's almost as if it's almost like becoming alienated from self. So we don't want to give way to that. And we want to affirm as we go out that I can do all things through the God presence, which strengthens me. That's very key and important. You can do all things. It didn't say some things, it says all things. And it also says with God, all things are possible. So we got to step into a space of possibility. And as we step into that new space of possibility within ourselves, use the spiritual principle of divine strength.
All right. Okay. With that, I'm going to thank you again for joining me in this space and for talking about these principles. And we're looking forward to going through the remaining 9 principles that we're going to be talking about through the rest of this year. And like I said, again, I appreciate you being here and for bringing forth this wisdom and allowing us to be able to, take another step towards, being, towards understanding who we are as individuals and reaching within. And so again, I appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing you again next month for our 4th spiritual principle. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yes. And with that, I'm going to say thank you all again for joining us for this episode of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. And until we see you all again the next time, I say peace.